While kingdoms fought for power and influence, ordinary people lived their lives, trying to survive in the harsh conditions of the medieval era. Urban markets and trade routes flourished despite the constant threat of attacks. Trade between cities and countries provided the necessary resources and fostered cultural exchange. The medieval era was a time of intellectual and cultural rise. Monasteries and universities became centers of learning and knowledge, where manuscripts, maps, and scientific works were created, laying the foundations for future discoveries. At the end of the 14th and beginning of the 15th century, there were many important discoveries and inventions that greatly influenced the development of humanity. During this period, watermills began to be actively used to drive mechanisms such as hammers and spinning wheels. This greatly accelerated production and improved technologies. Watermills were used for grinding grain and producing flour. They were also used for other tasks, such as sawing wood and forging metals. Alchemy was one of the most mysterious sciences of that time. Alchemists sought the philosopher's stone and the elixir of immortality, experimenting with various substances and chemical processes. Despite the lack of significant success in these quests, their experiments laid the foundation for the development of chemistry. Engineering and architecture continued to evolve. Builders created complex and durable structures, such as castles, bridges, and cathedrals. Construction technologies improved, allowing for the creation of impressive and long-lasting structures, many of which have survived to this day. For example, the architecture of the major Czech city of Kutná Hora. In the game, this city is recreated in a location called Kuttenberg. Kutná Hora is a city known for its rich history and architectural monuments. The city was founded in the first half of the 13th century and became an important center for silver mining in Europe. In the 13th century, the mines of Kutná Hora produced 1/3 of all European silver. This event sparked the so-called Silver Rush. Kutná Hora is famous for its Gothic monuments. The most famous of these is the St. Barbara's Cathedral, which is the second largest Gothic church in the Czech Republic. Construction of the cathedral began in the 14th century and continued until 1547. Today, Kutná Hora is a popular tourist center, thanks to its historical and cultural attractions. In 1995, the city center was included in the UNESCO World Heritage List. Another memorable location in the game that exists in reality is the Nebuchó Fortress. Currently, these are the ruins of a medieval castle located in the municipality of Trosky in the Liberec region of the Czech Republic. The castle was founded in the second half of the 14th century by Čeněk of Wartenberg. It is built on 2 basalt volcanic slag cones. On the lower peak is a 2-story building called Baba, and on the higher peak is a quadrangular building called Pana. The castle served as an important stronghold during the Hussite Wars and was never fully captured by enemies. Today, Trosky Castle is a popular tourist attraction thanks to its romantic atmosphere and unique architecture. Let's look at some tricks medieval builders used to construct such grand structures. Lifting cranes with enormous wheels. In the Middle Ages, these wooden wheels, known as lifting wheels or hoist wheels, were used to lift heavy loads on construction sites. These wheels were powered by people walking inside them, like a giant hamster wheel. This allowed heavy stones and other materials to be lifted to significant heights. The rope attached to the load passed through a system of pulleys and was wound around a drum connected to the wheel. As the wheel turned, the rope wound around the drum, lifting the load. These lifting mechanisms were an important part of medieval engineering and allowed for the construction of tall buildings and structures that we see today. Gothic architecture is the most striking symbol of medieval Europe. The Gothic style emerged in the 12th century and dominated architecture until the 16th century. Here are some key features of the Gothic style. Pointed arches and flying buttresses. These elements help distribute the building's weight and give it a visual lightness and airiness. Flying buttresses support the walls and allow for taller structures with thin walls and large windows. Tall, narrow towers and spires. Gothic buildings are often adorned with high, narrow towers and spires reaching upward. This creates an impression of reaching toward the sky and spiritual elevation. Vertical lines. The geometric emphasis on verticality in all parts of the structures. Narrow and tall windows, columns and arches create an effect of reaching upward. One of the most recognizable features of Gothic architecture is stained glass windows. They are usually decorated with patterns and images. The stained glass allows light to enter the building, creating a play of light and shadow. Medieval fortresses and castles were important elements of defense and symbols of power. Fortresses were often built on elevated areas, such as hills or cliffs, to provide a good view and make it difficult for enemies to attack. Water bodies, such as rivers and lakes, were also used to create natural barriers. Deep moats were dug around fortresses, which were filled with water to create an additional obstacle. Initially, castles were built from wood, but over time they transitioned to stone, which was more durable and long-lasting. The walls were massive and high to protect against attacks and siege weapons. Towers were built into the walls to serve as observation and defense points. The towers could be round or square and were located at the corners of the walls or along their length. The main entrances to fortresses were protected by drawbridges and massive gates. The drawbridges could be raised to block access to the fortress, and the gates were reinforced with iron grills. Inside the fortresses were residential buildings, warehouses, barracks, and other structures. The inner courtyards were used for training and housing troops. These features made medieval fortresses powerful defensive structures that could withstand prolonged sieges and protect their inhabitants.